The Twilight Zone is remembered as a genre-defining horror title, but many of its prevailing themes are still incredibly frightening by 2020's standards. Arguably the best anthology show ever released on television, The Twilight Zone is a foundational text for horror created and presented by Rod Serling, who addresses the audience with bookend quotes to sum up each episode. Though the Twilight Zone's franchise has expanded with modernized reboots, no version compares to the original, which captured the terror of existential threats as well as more subtle, slow-burning tension that came to a point with a dramatic twist or haunting moral allegory. Despite its predictable formula, The Twilight Zone is one of the most creative horror shows ever made. 10. The Hitchhiker Season 1, Episode 16. While The Twilight Zone has many experimental episodes, it expertly handles straightforward concepts as well. In Season 1, The Hitchhiker follows Nan Adams, Inga Stevens, on a cross-country road trip. She gets into a small car accident at the beginning of the episode but continues her journey, slowly realizing the titular hitchhiker, Ronald Strong, is somehow always one step ahead. The well-known hitchhiker twist in The Twilight Zone is that Nan died in the initial car accident, and the entire episode was truly about death following her until she realized the truth. Death alone is a timeless fear, but the concept of Nan unknowingly being dead the entire time makes it an incredibly disturbing watch with a harrowing final scene. 9. Mirror Image Season 1, Episode 21. In addition to being the constant voice that guides the viewer, Rod Serling took an active approach in the show's creation. Some unforgettable Twilight Zone episodes were written by Rod Serling, including Mirror Image from Season 1. The episode focuses on Millicent Barnes, Vera Miles, who loses her sanity after encountering an identical copy of herself at a bus stop. The concept strikes a primal chord within us, preying on humanity's inherent fear of the uncanny valley by employing the evil doubles. The episode inspired Jordan Peele's acclaimed film Us, but the idea of running into someone who looks exactly like you, whether they have a manic smile or reproachful glare, will never cease to terrify audiences of all ages. 822 Season 2, Episode 17. Most episodes of The Twilight Zone focus on one central location for its horror, and 22 is no different. In the Season 2 episode, Liz Powell, Barbara Nichols, is hospitalized due to exhaustion and experiences a recurring nightmare where she's lured to the morgue, Room 22. A nurse beckons her in, repeating the chilling line, "Room for one more, honey." The episode bends reality and dream until they are inextricably linked, building towards the climactic ending where Liz refuses to board a plane, Flight 22, which explodes after takeoff. 22 bears obvious similarities to the Final Destination franchise, but it also immerses the viewer in liminal space horror. Furthermore, the episode was shot on videotape, adding an unsettling, unreal look. 7. Long Distance Call Season 2, Episode 22. The Twilight Zone went beyond situational horror, of course. In Season 2, Long Distance Call taps into something innately scary, losing a family member. After Bill Mummy, receives a toy telephone from his dying grandmother, Lily Davers, he begins to communicate with her after her death. Billy's parents believe it's a coping mechanism, but everything takes a sinister turn. Billy's grandmother tries to trick him into killing himself so that they'll be reunited in the afterlife. Billy's father begs Grandma to let the child live, and she eventually relents. Happy endings in The Twilight Zone are rare, but the compound horror of a loved one's death and their posthumous plots to kill you has no expiration date. 6. It's a Good Life Season 3, Episode 8. Billy Mummy returns the next season as Anthony Hollis, a tyrannical 6-year-old who uses his supernatural powers to control his hometown. If anyone speaks out against his oppressive control, Anthony sends them to the cornfield or takes their humanity away by turning them into a jack-in-the-box toy. In the end, nobody can overpower the child. What makes Anthony one of the scariest Twilight Zone characters is his naivety. Anthony truly doesn't understand the consequences of his actions, and his parents can't reprimand him without fearing for their life. It's a vicious cycle with a hopeless ending, which is oftentimes worse than death. Our fascination with evil children is an undercurrent of horror history. Movies like The Exorcist, The Omen, and even more modern entries like Orphan work so well because they lean into the horror of taking something innocent, a child, and turning it into a monster. Plus, anyone with unrestricted absolute power is terrifying, toddler or otherwise. 5. Little Girl Lost Season 3, Episode 26. Anything that complicates our understanding of reality is, by nature, frightening. Adding in a family and threatening to tear them apart makes it horrific. Little Girl Lost from Season 3 follows the Miller family of Ruth, Sarah Marshall, Chris, Robert Sampson, and their daughter, Tina, Tracy Stratford, who disappears from her bed in the middle of the night. The family dog disappears after climbing under her bed, leading them to discover a portal to another dimension. Chris narrowly escapes the closing portal after rescuing Tina and the dog, but the alternative is unthinkable. The episode's beginning is scary enough, with two parents having to listen to their crying child without being able to reach her. As reiterated by recent hits like Weapons, there's something intrinsically disturbing about children going missing. Separating a loving family is the worst thing a horror movie could do, be it by death or supernatural forces, but Little Girl Lost rubs salt in the wound by showing the terrifying parallel dimension Tina was trapped in. For the Dummer Season 3, Episode 33. What are now considered clichés of horror were once novel ideas, like an evil ventriloquist dummy. The Season 3 episode of the same name follows Jerry's, Cliff Robertson, descent into madness as he tries to retire his dummy, Willie. Though Jerry insists Willie is sentient, nobody believes him. The tension builds into one of the Twilight Zone's most shocking endings, where Jerry and Willie swap roles. Jerry is turned into an unsettling ventriloquist doll that Willie, now animated, operates on stage. The evil dummy archetype may be commonplace now, but Willie robbing Jerry of his personhood and turning him into nothing more than a puppet is perpetually horrifying. 3. The New Exhibit Season 4, Episode 13. Throughout the 5 seasons of The Twilight Zone, there were rarely plots dedicated to realistic aspects of horror, like The New Exhibit and its focus on historical serial killers. Martin Lombard-Senescu, Martin Balsam, worked in a wax museum, caring for its Murderer's Row section. After bringing the figures home, however, they come to life and frame Martin for murder. The world's fascination with true crime has only grown more voracious with time, and a storyline like The New Exhibit remains terrifying because of our growing knowledge of horrific killers. Rather than Jack the Ripper or Albert W. Hicks, though, modern audiences would likely turn to Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, or the newly platformed Ed Gein for morbid entertainment. 2. Number 12 looks just like you Season 5, Episode